Welcome to the March 10th meeting of Hardin County Fiscal Court. I'd remind you, if you have cell phones, please turn them off or put them in vibrate mode. We'll begin with the roll call, if you would, Ms. Donnelly.
Wiseman.
Here.
Thompson.
Here.
Ronnie Goodman.
Here.
King.
Here.
Judge Barry.
Here.
Easter.
Here.
Doug Goodman.
Here.
Boone. Here. Clem.
Here.
Mr. Easter will lead us in the invocation this afternoon, and Mr. Ronnie Goodman in the pledge, if you please stand.
Join me in a word of prayer. Dear Lord, we're so thankful for this day, these blessings that you've given us. We're also, most importantly, thankful for your love and your grace. We ask that you be with us today, guide and direct us as we go about this agenda. And let us be found faithful at the end of the day to those that we represent and serve. Be with us now, and for all these things, we give you all the praise and the glory. And it's in the name of Jesus Christ I pray. Amen.
Amen. You join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First up, we have informational items. Today we have with us from the Kentucky Department of Transportation, Mr. Paul Sanders from District 4, the engineer there.
Thank you, Judge.
Good afternoon.
Before I get started with this year's rural secondary program, I've got two gentlemen with me. Behind me on my left would be Brandon Bagby, who's a section engineer out of the E-Town section office. And then next to him is Bo Warren, who's a branch manager. Bo works there in the district office with me. So just want to introduce those fellows and make sure everybody knows who they are. So for this year's program for the rural secondary, it is funded 22.2% of the motor fuel tax receipts. These funds are allocated to all 120 counties based on a 5-point formula. That formula being 1/5 equal among all the counties, 1/5 based on the rural population, 1/5 based on the road miles, and then 2/5 based on the land area. And of course, once that money has been allocated to a county, it is not transferable to another county. So there in front of you have this year's program for us. If you'll notice, there's 164.597 miles of rural secondary roads in Hardin County. Our very first priority is our routine maintenance and traffic allowance. That money being $717,400. That's the money that we use to maintain the roads. The second priority is the county judge expense. Excuse me, but that number is wrong. It should be $2,400. Sorry for that error, but that's set by statute. And then our next priority, number 3, that's the resurfacing of Kentucky 583 from the LaRue-Hardin County line at mile point 0 going to US 62 at mile point 3.217. That total distance being 3.217. Estimated cost is $380,788. Then our next priority, number 4, is Kentucky 1866 from Kentucky 720 at mile point 0 going to Lambert Lane at 2.580. Total distance again being 2.580 miles. And anticipated cost being $231,395. Then our next priority is Kentucky 220. That's from Kentucky 1375 at mile point 8.976 to Kentucky 1600 at 12.307. That total distance being 3.331 miles long. The anticipated cost on that's being $294,694. Then our final priority is Kentucky 1538, starting at Kentucky 1357, which is mile point 0, and then run into Kentucky 1600 at mile point 3.804. The total distance is 3.804. But what I would like to mention is we're really doing from Kentucky 1600 to the railroad track. We don't have enough money in the plan this year to do all of it, so we're going to concentrate on the 1600 in to the railroad track. The remaining portion of the road will perform some base fare repairs on it and then have it ready for next year and continue it with next year's program. So at the end of next year's program, we should do all of St. John's Church Road. So that anticipated cost again for that last one be $178,673. So is there any questions about that program? And we are a little bit, like I said, we're about $8,000 over for the year, so it'll be adjusted accordingly.
Great. Any comments or concerns? Anything else you'd like to share with us?
Well, I'll share a couple things if you allow me.
Sure.
One thing we got coming up this month, we're going to close down the US 62 at the Nelson County line. That bridge is set up for replacement. It's got a completion date at the end of the year. So, again, that's going to be a little bit of a traffic woe because the road is being closed in its entirety. So that's, like I said, going to start this month. Something else we've got going on, and you all are well aware of it, I'm sure, is the bridge up in West Point. We hopefully we're shooting for a June completion on that this year, and we'll get that one out of the way, and then we've got a good bridge for everyone to travel on. Some other things that we're looking at is resurfacing of Kentucky 220 in the Ronnieville area, starting there at 1600 and going to 447, so it'd be from the roundabout up to Wilson Road. That's been let already. We're doing in West Point 31X. We're going to resurface it through town. Then here on Patriot Parkway, Kentucky 1600, starting there, going to Ronnieville. That'll get resurfaced this year. Then we've got a piece of 31W up near West Point. It's a section that was widened with a turning lane a few years back. That'll be resurfaced. Then the next thing we got Logston Parkway up in front of North Hardin High School. If you're up in that area, all the way up from 1500 all the way up to Hill Street. That is on our resurfacing list. And then we've got a section of US 62 on the west side of town going up towards Altec Drive that'll get resurfaced. And then Kentucky 86 in Cecilia area, going from 1375, that will be resurfaced also. That contract has already been let and awarded, so it's just a matter of the plants opening up and we're getting started. And then Kentucky 84 from Kentucky 920 to Meeting Creek Road, that'll be another route that'll get resurfaced. So we've got quite a bit of asphalt to be laid and things will be in good shape.
Great.
That's all I got.
Paul, if you would, can you comment on the turnarounds on 31W?
Okay, so we've got the project that was let last year. We're doing 3 arc cuts, if you will, or J-turns, whatever you want to call it.
Is that the same thing as on Patriot Parkway when you talk about an arc?
It's at Decker School Road in Patriot Park, or Patriot is one location we've done it. If you come down to the end of Logston Parkway on 313, that's an example of that. For the most part, those that we're doing on 31W, the one at 220, the one at 434, have the loons. So when you do make that U-turn, it has a bubble out in the asphalt for you can do that. Up at Blackjack, it will not have that, but it's still, you have the room to do the U-turn there. And that has started, and I think it's got a completion of this fall, or June, sorry. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, just about 62 and the bridge out on 62. When is that going to shut down now? Because that's pretty big news for people
Yeah,
out
and
of my
they're actually, we're
district.
putting a press release out today. I think it was the 26th was the date on that, but I know it's this month.
It is the end of this month, and we expect till the end of the year.
Yes.
That's how long it's going to take. And there's so something will be in the paper
Yes.
to let everybody know about
Yes.
that.
Yes.
And,
We
a
have
lot of people go to cut through to I-65 to get on the BG,
Yeah, yeah. And
that area,
I know it
there's-
makes it cumbersome for the people because it's not a full interchange there at 583, but like I said, we'll have detour signs up and everything. We'll try to catch people that we can.
Okay.
And keep them from getting down in there and getting stuck.
Okay, good. But we get a new bridge, right?
But we get a new bridge and a shorter bridge, so that's less to maintain.
Anyone else?
On your turnaround on Dixie Highway up in Radcliffe, did we have some public hearings on that last year, or did they handle that different than they have in the past?
I don't believe there were any public hearings on it. I'm be honest with you, I know we had some meetings. We invited some local officials and stuff on those meetings, so I do know there's some involvement with it.
I don't know if Blackjack Road's a very good idea or not.
I know the mayor has visited up there. He came to those meetings, and from what I've gathered from that, he was on board with those. I don't want to speak for him, but I just take from it.
Probably the only one. I know most of the residents around there don't care for it.
Anybody else? We appreciate the great job that you do,
All right.
and particularly the coordination and the close work you do with us and the help. We really do appreciate it.
We thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Everybody, thank you.
All right, we'll move on to department and office reports. First up today is Planning Development Commission, Mr. Adam King.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
I've got the January and February reports from the Planning Commission. So busy couple of months. First up here, this is the 86 Volunteer Fire Department. And we did a public facility review, essentially that box there in yellow to the front of the station. They did a approximately 450 square foot addition. So that was approved by the Planning Commission, and we also waived all the planning, building, and electrical fees. Next up, we're getting yet another Dollar General in the county. So this was a zone change from rural residential R2 to the convenience commercial zone. This is at Franklin Crossroads. So they're at the intersection. It'll be a 9,100 square foot store, approximately 30 parking spaces, and we negotiated with them, and it will have a brick facade there similar to that photo. Also, on February 4th, the Planning Commission heard a zone change. This was essentially just swapping properties, a 1.3 acre tract between the Thomases and the Lovalls. This land lies between South Mill Street and St. Ambrose Church Lane in Cecilia. The property that the Thomases own is there in blue. It's zoned commercial due to its proximity to the railroad. And then the property the Lovalls owned on St. Ambrose was zoned residential. So we rezoned that yellow triangle there to allow for them to swap that property. This was an application before the Board of Adjustment on February 6th. Mark and Deborah Nelson out on Cecilia Road near the Orchard subdivision. So the board approved them for a conditional use permit to allow for them to build the barn. You see there, it's a 4,800 square foot barn that exceeded the size of the home on site. This was a conditional use permit. This was a renewal or an amended conditional use permit. Michelle and John Edwards doing businesses, the place at Gilead there on Gilead Church Road, south of the Glendale Industrial Site. So they were granted 5 additional years on their conditional use permit to do a wedding and event venue there. They have been in operation for 5 years. This was a variance. Tim and Tara Martin at the corner of North Long Grove Road and Hansborough Road. 1911 house per PVA records, and the green boxes there would signify the additions they were doing. So they were adding on a porch, a living room, and a bathroom, and they were too close to Hansborough Road. The board approved that. They weren't getting any closer than the existing house. Some existing mature trees you see there in the photo. So that was also approved. This was a zone change on February 18th. So this was Amanda and Chris Meredith. This was a zone change from rural residential R2 to urban residential R1 on Optimus Road. The zone change allowed them to go from a 3 acre minimum lot size to a 1 acre minimum lot size so that they could further subdivide that property there. So if you all remember back to 2008 when we did our new comprehensive plan, we expanded the urban area by approximately 16,000 acres, saying the county's going to grow, where do we want it to grow? And Optimus Road, the south side of Optimus Road, was the dividing line there between urban and rural. So we didn't change anybody's zoning, but we did expand that urban area. So the comp plan supported this zone change, and again, it was approved by the Planning Commission on February 18th. Another fire station approved as a public facility. This will actually be a new fire station for the Rineyville Fire Department. This is at the corner of Oak Brook Lane and Pointers Court. That is behind the Rineyville Food Mart there. Pointers Court would be running into an older subdivision, and Oak Brook Lane. We've got some multifamily housing back there. It's also near Leaser Electric. but they are proposing to build a 6,300 square foot new fire station, and this was approved by the Planning Commission, and also the fees were waived for the electrical and planning building fees. That's going to be a state building project, so we could not waive those. Lastly, as far as things that went before the Planning Commission or Board of Adjustment, this will be a new subdivision with streets. What was historically known as the Thomas Farm. This is located near the corner of West Roots Creek Road and New Glendale Road. So Will Harris and Larry Phillips are proposing 17-lot subdivision there on 51 acres, and that preliminary plat was approved by the Planning Commission. I apologize. Lastly here, this was February 20th. Board of Adjustment approved Mr. Arthur Hurley down on South Dixie to approve a permanent accessory dwelling. Again, he built a 1,200 square foot guest house there on his 11-acre property. Looking at the various applications we've received in January and February, 6 conditional use permits, 2 development plans for commercial projects, 17 subdivision plats, and 6 variances. Looking at the plats and lots that have been recorded at the clerk's office, so for 2020 thus far, we've done 12 subdivision plats, and then lots are up. We've already done 25 lots for the year. Looking at single-family dwelling construction, 25 new homes for January and February, and there the map on your right, new subdivision called Rosie Tulip. That's off of Gaither Station Road across from the E-Town Wastewater Treatment Plant. We've issued 7 building permits in there already. There are only 14 lots. Visited the site at the end of last week. So far just 1 footer in the ground, but 7 permits have been issued. Looking at the activities of the building and electrical inspectors, 70 building permits for January and February, and 156 electrical permits. Inspections, cumulatively, they've done 232 final inspections. We've done 34 footers and 74 rough inspections on the electrical side. And then lastly, our visitors report. 200 visitors to the office in January and 188 in February. So that's all I've got. I'm happy to answer any questions you all might have.
Anyone have any questions? Thanks, Adam. Appreciate the update.
Thank you all.
Next is the Hardin County Engineering Department. It's Vickie Meredith.
Good afternoon, Judge Barry, members of the Fiscal Court. Well, the time is upon us, so I want to talk again about the census. Census Day is April 1st, and I just wanted to remind you and kind of go back over some of the things we talked about before and kind of move forward with that. You will be receiving notifications in the mail probably next week sometime, but we'll talk a little bit more about that. One of the reasons I wanted to spend a little more time with this also was in 2000 and 2010, there were some low counts that they found that they realized after it was over. And so this time they're really trying to reach out. So I'm sure you've probably heard some commercials. I hope you've seen more advertising, but they just want to make sure. And some of the low participation lessons that were learned was limited general knowledge about the census and concern over privacy and use of data. So I do want to kind of go over that with you to give you some idea of, again, why we're doing it and how you are being protected as you do it. But basically, the census is a count of all the people who live in the United States, and that helps decision-making in governments and the communities. It paints an accurate picture of the nation and the diversity of our population related to age, gender, race, ethnicity, language, marital status, household type, etc. And I know that I've heard comments about that people don't think that that's important, but this is an actual count of individuals in housing units, not just a sampling, so we know exactly where people are. To make these decisions, the government officials must know not only who you are, but how many and where they're located. So just because they know, I mean, they have to ask these type of questions. Just because we know that let's step back a little bit. From the census data, there's a book that they prepare, and this is about school-age kids. It's called Kids Count. So in this book, it tells all different kinds of information that the schools and other related entities know. So based on this, it tells you that nearly 1 in 4 Kentuckians are children. That's based on census, because you've actually not given, not only, that's why you give your age in the census, so they know how many kids there are. But they also need to know where you are. Just because we know that there's over 1 million kids in 2018 that were ages 0 to 17, still doesn't tell us what's going on here in Hardin County. But because we have the census and because we know, we can start bringing it down to census blocks. We can go down to Hardin County and find that there's over 27,000 kids in Hardin County. So they can do that with every element of the population to try to figure out what's going on, what's important, and where that money needs to go. So it's extremely important. So if anyone asks you, why do they need that much information? What are they doing with it? I hope that helps you be able to tell them what goes on, because it's not that Joe Brown lives at this location. It's a male that lives at this location, and he's got a family of 5, and these are these ages, and they might need, maybe he's got elderly living with him or school-age kids. So it tells them exactly where they are. So we use that information to make decisions. So again, why do we do it? Because it's required by law, and the U.S. Constitution requires that a census is done every 10 years. And we started this in 1790, so we've been doing them every 10 years since this. It gives us a really good idea of what's going on. And it's also about power. It's not government power, it's your power. It's for you to say, I count. I pay my taxes. I want that money to come back to my community for my family. So by saying this, you're able to say, this is who I am, and this is going to bring that money back. So it does things by, helps to determine how many seats our state gets in Congress, and it's also used to redraw some district boundaries from congressional to school districts. All that information is all together. But it's also about money. You want to make sure that you're getting your share amount back, your fair share amount back. It's a distribution of over $675 billion in federal funding every year. And if you don't have that count, you're not going to get it back here to Kentucky. We need to have that. So it actually does impact our daily lives. It's amazing how many different programs. Any federal funding that comes back to fund any of the programs, such as public housing and health care, early learning schools and financial aid, hospitals and nursing homes, roads and highways, what he was just talking about money coming back here, part of that is based on census data and how they allocate the funds. Emergency services, everything that helps us on a daily basis. So looking a little closer at Kentucky, Kentucky receives $15.7 billion annually. And based on this information, they use this data to figure out what to do with it. So there's a chart that I have up here, and I know you can't read it, and I apologize for that. There wasn't any way for me to be able to do that. But essentially, it's an allocation of funds from 55 large federal spending programs. So it talks about the $15 billion that are here, but as it's going through this listing, and I'd be happy to share this with anyone, but this, it's got medical assistance program, the Medicaid, federal direct student loans, highway and planning construction, National School Lunch Program, Head Start, school breakfast programs, rural electrification loans and loan guarantees, the Cooperative Extension Program. It just goes on. So, you really have to stop and think about where does all the money go and why is it important? But again, I want to go back to each person. As they look at the census in Kentucky, they did a study and they determined that the funding distribution represents approximately a little over $2,000 for each person counted in Kentucky. And I do want to go over this graphic again because I think it really just brings it home. So if you've got $2,000 per individual, over the 10 years of the census, you've got over $20,000 per year that person should have brought back into Kentucky and your community. And to throw that even a little further, if you got a family of 5, That would have been $10,000 worth of funding a year and over $100,000 in the 10 years' time. So it just quickly adds up, and with everything that goes on here, it's extremely important that we participate so we can get the money. Being undercounted hurts everyone, so we've all got to do it. I know there's questions about, is this information safe and secure? Federal law protects your responses and the information that could identify your household. Only after 72 years can identifying information about the individual's household or businesses be released. Also, by law, it cannot be used by any government agency or court in any way. So I know there's a lot of discussion right now about ICE and FBI and Homeland Security and CIA and all that. They can't use it. They cannot do that. And it's all census workers, they take an oath that they can't share it, and there's a penalty of over $250,000 or up to 5 years in fine if they share the data. So they do everything they can to make sure that it is safe. Also, there's precautions with regard to the data itself. We are going to be allowed to reply online this time, and all data is encrypted to protect the privacy. And then as soon as you respond, it's taken off of it, and it's put into something much more secure. It's putting it into a server that has more security. So they don't leave it online. They don't leave it out there. So once your answers, everything is encrypted and taken offline and stored in a secure location. So it's not out there. So who should count? Basically every person living in the United States, and it's where they sleep the most. I know some people, well, okay, my stepson lives with us part-time and lives with his dad part-time. So it's where you live the most. Where do you sleep the most? That's just the basic way that they're trying to do it. So if you are living mostly with your grandparents, that's what you count. So back on to how can I respond? They're trying to make it easy this year. Internet, by phone, by mail, or in person. They really want you to be a part of this, so they're really trying to make it as easy as possible. So the schedule for all this, between March 12th and 20th, they're going to send out invitations for people to start replying online. If you haven't started to reply, they're going to send another round out, March 16th through the 24th. And then if you haven't responded, you're going to get a postcard saying, hey, what happened? And then if you haven't responded, you're going to get a reminder letter with a paper questionnaire. And even beyond that, if you still don't respond, they're going to come to your house. So make it easy. Avoid the complications. Just go ahead and answer the questions. Hardin County is trying to work with individuals so they have the opportunity, if you have any questions about anything, it can be done online on your cell phone. And the Hardin County Public Library, we're setting that up to where there's a couple of computers there, so if you don't have computer access, and it's my understanding that census workers will also be there to help. I'm not quite sure yet of when they will be there. I haven't been notified yet, but they will be there periodically, daily, for certain periods of time to help people that have any questions. But it really should be really straightforward. So Census Day is April the 1st, so start responding in April. And please help us spread the word. If you haven't talked to your family or your family members or people at church or any organization that you have, just kind of bring it up and see what kind of responses you get and see if they are also on board, because they need to be. It's important. So hopefully we can get everybody to respond. So that's all I have for today, Judge. Any questions?
Comments?
I just have a comment. That is, basically, I'm a very generous person.
Yeah.
But when it comes to this, we want to be generous to Hardin County.
Absolutely.
And the way we can be generous is to make sure we're counted, because if we're not, the money that would come here will go somewhere else in the U.S.
Yes.
So please be counted so that resources that should rightly come to us do. And then if we want to be generous out of our own pocket, we can do that.
Exactly.
But let's not be generous with those funds that should be coming back to Hardin County. Let's provide for Hardin County by being counted.
Very good. Thank you.
We appreciate your hard work on this. I know it's time-consuming, organizing the effort and stuff, and then you've got a lot of other tasks that you're you're trying to balance at the same time, but it's important. We appreciate your perseverance on
Judge,
and persistence.
I appreciate that. As you know, early on, I kept telling everybody, Judge Barry volunteered me to do this. But the more I got into it, the more I realized it was excellent. So thank you for doing that. It has been a good educational program for me. I've learned a lot about it, and it's been a good outreach, and I believe in it. So I'm really happy to be a part of it. So thank you.
Well, like I've said before, the volunteer was either you or me, and I think we made the right choice.
Fair enough. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to the Hardin County Road Department. We have Mr. Michael Steck today. A guy that really knows what's going on.
Good afternoon, Judge, members of the court. Yeah, I got big shoes to fill today out here. So we're going to talk about... Do what?
You can handle it.
Thank you. So January and February at the road department. Encroachment permits the amount of encroachment permits is the same as last year, but the total amount has gone down a little bit. Because permits are dependent upon whether it was an existing or if they paid us to do an install or something, so that's the difference in the price. Road signs that we replaced, so we're up 9 on new road signs compared to last year. That's an uphill battle all the time. Those road signs are either vandalized or ran over or whatever. So that's not bad. Keeps our sign guy busy. He's repaired less, but and his other would be damaged mailboxes and stuff like that. And so that's down from last year. I'd say that probably has to do with snow and ice. We didn't have as much snow and stuff to fight. We usually are fighting mailboxes when we're fighting snow. Our daily activities are consisted of coal macking and asphalt hot boxing. So the coal macking and patching, we have filled 167 potholes in the last 2 months. Those 167 potholes are what's generated from our website or app, where constituents complain about a pothole, a certain specific pothole here or there. And then the asphalt hot boxing, that's something that we've implemented with our, as you know, our inmates work that come help us work and patch potholes. They've done a total of 5,030 in the past 2 months. So that's really went up. Well, inclement weather, freezing and thawing and all that has a lot to play with that. So those guys can't say enough about them. They do a good job. We've been working on our shoulders. Wet weather also has something to do with that. Of course, it rains every day. But, people run off the road and make a mess, and we've been trying to keep our shoulders safe and fix those drop-off places, especially on a couple of the roads that we had paved last fall. We did like Cecilia Smith Mill Road, Limp Road, I think it was Puckett Road. We went and tried to build the shoulder up to make it safer, to keep that big ledge from being there. We're still mow trimming, cutting the brush on the side of the right-of-ways. We have I'm going to estimate about 2 weeks, hopefully, of being done of one full round around every county road, and we started that a little over a year and a half ago, but we were behind. Hopefully, from here on out, that's a much smoother process, and we aren't cutting as much material. I know we've generated some complaints. Some of y'all heard about that. I appreciate you standing behind us on what we're trying to get done there. The shoulder repairing and ditching, we've been working on our roads that are coming up for resurfacing, trying to get in front of the infrastructure on those roads. So we've spent a lot of time on the drainage and the shoulders and replaced some, also down here on cross tile replacements. We've been, primarily that's on our roads that are fixing to get blacktop this spring. So that's, our construction resources have been there about, I would say, 90% of the winter months. So hopefully when we go to resurface those roads this spring, we won't have any problems with any water or drainage issues for years to come, I hope. Tree trimming and stuff, our guys that mow in the summertime, they trim trees in the winter. They've been doing a lot of that. We still have some damage from the ice storm of, what was that, 18? Or no, I guess it was 19, wasn't it? November? Anyway, we're still working on some hangers and stuff from the ice storm that happened. And they've been just trying to hit every road and take down any hanging limbs and some dead trees and stuff like that. But we're trying to cover the whole county because we still had some of those Widowmaker hangers out there. Along with that comes stump removal. If they took down a dead tree or something, we're trying to grind the stumps up so this spring they don't grow up in grass and our mowers hit them and damage stuff. And then we did a little bit of total patching, come up to a total cost of $6,035.63. We did just order, we haven't done any of that in the last month probably because we ran out of material, but we did get with asphalt materials and order another 5,000 gallons of that. So that'll be hopefully something we implement here in the next few months as it warms up. We've been doing some CDL training with our new employees. I've got two current employees that have their permits, so they passed the written testing. That gentleman there in the picture, he is going next Monday to try for his road test, and he'll be done. And then I've got another guy that is in the process of taking his written test. So that's something we've been working on. I think that's all I have today. Any questions?
Anyone?
Did I do okay?
You did a great job.
Hey,
Excellent.
good job.
Got it done.
Tell Dwight to send you back next time.
Yeah. Thank you.
Doesn't take nearly as long.
You act like you don't want to come back
Not
to
been
see
there
us.
as long, that's right.
Oh, you're all right. We probably wish we like you.
All right, we'll move on to item number 4, which is ordinances, agreements, and resolutions. First up is item 4A. It's second reading and adoption of ordinance number 318-3. It's series 2019. Amendment number 3 to the fiscal year 2019-2020 budget. We had first reading of the ordinance on the 25th of February, and second reading would be in order today.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. King, second by Mr. Ronnie Goodman. Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Donnelly?
Thompson,
Yes.
Ronnie Goodman,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Judge Barry,
Yes.
Easter,
Yes.
Doug Goodman,
Yes.
Boone,
Yes.
Clem,
Yes.
Wiseman.
Yes.
Item 4B is Resolution 2020-030. It's approving the Kentucky Department of Agriculture spay and neuter grant application. This is an application we make each year. The amount's $2,500.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Wiseman. Any discussion on this issue? Having none, Ms. Donnelly?
Ronnie Goodman,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Judge Barry,
Yes.
Easter,
Yes.
Doug Goodman,
Yes.
Boone,
Yes.
Clem,
Yes.
Wiseman,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
And item 4C is Resolution 2020-031. It's approving the Maddie's Fund Implementation Grant Application. The amount's $5,000. Will help animal control with optimizing foster care for pets.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Boone, second by Mr. Thompson. Discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Donnelly?
King,
Yes.
Judge Barry,
Yes.
Easter,
Yes.
Doug Goodman,
Yes.
Boone,
Yes.
Clem,
Yes.
Wiseman,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Ronnie Goodman.
Yes.
Brings us to item 5, which is the consent agenda that was included in your electronic packet. Are there any corrections that need to be made? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve? Motion by Mr. Clem,
Second.
second by Ms. Boone. Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Donnelly?
Judge Barry,
Yes.
Easter,
Yes.
Doug Goodman,
Yes.
Boone,
Yes.
Clem,
Yes.
Wiseman,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Ronnie Goodman,
Yes.
King.
Yes.
We'll start around the table today with Mr. Wiseman.
The solid waste will have a meeting next Monday, the 16th at 3:30 in the room across the hall. Everyone is invited.
Mr. Thompson?
We just encourage those of you who stay in contact with our state legislators, if you have any
concern about our roads and the condition they're in. The funding that has come from the state has been greatly reduced, much less than it was 15 years ago. And they're currently looking at House Bill 580, which would allow for the gasoline add-on, which would allow for funding that would come directly to each county to help with county roads. And unless we begin to do something there, our state and our county, unfortunately the county has no choice in it, but our state, in my mind, is past the point of urgency, and they're in my mind, they're penny wise and pound foolish, because there are some costs up front that if we take care of initially, we won't have the problems that we do, and if they don't, there are going to be huger costs coming down the road. So I urge you to contact legislators that would be voting on this possible funding for our roads, to contact them. Again, it's funding that we had in the past and don't have today. And because of that, we're probably on a 40-year paving cycle, maybe 50. So if some of your roads are in bad shape out there, that's the answer. That's where the funding comes from. I want them all in top shape, but I can't have that happen. We can't without the funding. So if you can do something about it, please do. Thank you.
Mr. Ronnie Goodman.
I have none.
Mr. King.
Judge, I have nothing. Thank you.
Mr. Easter.
I don't have anything.
Mr. Doug Goodman.
I have no items, Judge.
Spoon.
Just a reminder that the Resources and Community Support Committee will be meeting next Tuesday, March 17th at 3 p.m., just across the hall. Everyone is welcome to attend. And E.G., I want to thank you. I know you've been all over this deal about the roads and the gas tax. So thank you. And just to follow up on what he said, if you're sick of the potholes in your road and the upkeep on your road, help us help you. Call your legislators and encourage them on that House Bill 580. Please, so we can get them paid.
Just to follow up, auto repairs would cost much less if we had better roads. And Kentucky is one of the highest fatality, road fatalities in the nation because of the poor condition of our roads.
Mr. Clem.
Just a constant reminder not to drink and drive and not to text and drive. And I guess I'm going to sound like my mother now. Wash your hands, please.
Ms. Donnelly, anything from the clerk's office?
No, sir.
Ms. Oldham, anything from your office?
No, thank you.
All right, I remind everybody that the next meeting of this fiscal court is here in the courtroom on the 24th of March at 3:30 in the afternoon. And if there's nothing else to come before us, a motion would be in order for us to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. King, second by Mr. Doug Goodman. Is there any objection? Hearing none, we stand adjourned.